Ciao a tutti. In this week's episode, I'm so excited because we're going to be sitting down with Skyler Mapes, a wonderful producer of olive oil, actually based in Calabria, but originally from the United States. Skyler, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for joining us. So I just want to really get into it. All of our listeners, everyone else, they just want to know. Everyone wants to know about olive oil. So kind of take us a little bit on your background and how did you arrive at this moment here where you're producing some crazy kick-ass olive oil?
Well, I was tricked by my husband. Ladies, that's a warning. So
Is he
I met,
Italian?
yes, he's Calabrian. So come
Okay,
on.
Calabrese.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So my background's actually in design and architecture, and I went to architecture school at Arizona State in Tempe. I did an internship in Barcelona, and it was during that trip that I went to Rome for one weekend, and I met Giuseppe, who would be my husband. And we did long distance for a while, and he came to live in the US, and he was looking at the olive oils and searching for an olive oil that would be similar to the Calabrian oil that his family has been producing for almost 100 years. And he just thought it was very homogenous and not really what he was looking for.
Mhm.
And I had only tasted real Calabrian olive oil one or two times when I had gone to visit him in Italy. So I was like, just pick an oil, like it's fine. You're being a brat right now. Like just pick one, let's go home and let's eat. And he's like, no. I need to call my mom and I need her to send me like 50-liter vats of oil. So his mom, Lena, who's
No
amazing,
way.
she was gonna send him, I swear, she was like, don't worry, I got this. We're going to figure it out together. So she was going to send him oil. And then once we started telling our friends about it, they were making fun of him and laughing. And they were like, wait, can she actually send me some too? And then that's when Giuseppe was like, let's start an olive oil company. I was not on board, but he had planted a seed of an idea in my head. And I was
Okay.
looking to kind of exit the design industry. And so
Mhm.
I had a friend that co-founded a winery in the Bay Area because I'm from Oakland, California originally. And she said, I asked her, I said, Shauna, can I come work with you? Please, in the cellar. Like, I don't want to start this olive oil company if I hate being around this type of equipment, because the equipment for making
Mhm.
wine is identical to the equipment that we use to make olive oil.
Yeah,
And so she
similar
said,
to
yeah, come work with
fertilizer.
me.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I went and worked with her. I loved it. I loved being in the cellar. I loved the energy and everything about it. I was obsessed. And I said, okay, let's do this.
And that's it. You just were like, okay, at that moment, you did you move to Italy or did you go visit his family at that point and then say,
So
okay, let's come up with a plan?
I had already visited his family a couple times in Calabria by that point, and we moved back to Calabria, Le Castella, which is a tiny town in the Ball de Toe.
Yeah,
It really occupies the ball. Like we're really on that little pointy
right,
part, and it's only like 1,400 people. And Giuseppe's mom is from here, so of course she's related to like 70% of the
right.
people in the town. Everyone's a cousin. They're all related, and
You show up,
we
everyone's like, who's this?
they knew
Everyone
of,
in town knows you're there.
yeah, they do. They know the minute you get there.
Yep.
And then
It's
the people,
spread
like
like
the minute you
wildfire.
open your door, it's game over. Like open your door and every next thing you know, the neighbor has to like mop her front porch, of course. You know how it is. Sweeping all day. Sweep the
Yes.
porch for a quarter, at least 4 hours a day. That's what you do in
Is
here.
she in black?
No,
No, not anymore.
no.
So, how did that, so we're talking about the seeds being planted and so how did they germinate? So how did these seeds, how did they germinate? What happened? I understand you went to work in the winery. How do we go from that to having the connection and the huge family lineage and history of old olive oil trees? How does one go from that to a product? Like how does that happen? Can you kind of walk us through?
Yeah, so architecture, the reason I love design school, especially the program that I was in at Arizona State, is my professors always went over design as problem solving. That's all it
Okay.
is. You're solving problems in spaces for people. That's what we design for. And so for me, I was building a brand.
Mhm.
I wasn't building an olive oil company. I was building a brand. I was building this thing that we needed, us personally, and also other people, because they didn't know nobody, and a lot of people, I don't want to say nobody, sorry. A lot of people did not know and still don't know where Calabria is in Italy. And so I was like, we need to build this brand and help rebuild Calabria's identity. So that's what we're
Mhm.
building. And of course, the olive oil will be the foundation of that, but we really need to rebuild Calabria's identity. And so that was and still is the foundation of EXAU.
Okay.
And so for me, it wasn't a big jump. It's not like I'm just going to go make olive oil now. It's like, no, we're building this thing that's going to help. We're going to grow. It's like a living being. I think of EXAU as a
Okay.
person. I know that might be kind of pretentious as a designer, like my brand is a being, but that it's my baby.
So it's a vehicle. You had to build the vehicle in order to sell or to produce or sell the olive oil as well. That's smart.
Exactly.
A lot of people just immediately want to hurry up and go and, oh, I've got the product. All right, now what? And they're sitting around and you don't know what to do. So one of the things that I think it's really interesting, let's kind of talk a little bit about the olive oil itself, because you bring up a good point. A lot of times in the past, Calabria would just maybe sell off a lot of its olives in bulk, as bulk olive oil. And so, what types of varieties? I know many people aren't familiar with varieties, but they're starting to get familiar with maybe a little bit with. They know Liguria and Taggiasca. Maybe they know some Pendolino, Licino, and Tuscany. But can you kind of walk us through some of the native varieties there, or some of your
Yeah.
species? Yeah.
So honestly, when it comes to varieties, this is Giuseppe is the biggest olive nerd of all
Okay.
time.
Okay.
He's like an encyclopedia.
Okay.
Um, I love my husband, but when he starts listing off, I'm like, Giuseppe, I get to like 50 and I need you to shut it down. So you can nerd out really hard because there's over 650 varietals of olives just in Italy. The biodiversity here is I,
Insane.
wild. It's absolutely incredible. And so here in Calabria, we have a lot of, so we're in a region, like Castella's, within this region where the Carolea olive only grows naturally within 70 kilometers of the coast. And so our property is within that range. And so it's really cool because we grow a lot of Carolea and it's growing within its natural habitat. And then
Okay.
if you go into the mountains, you'll find Rojanella, which grows really, really, really well in the mountains at a super high elevation. And the wild thing about that tree is that the olives stay green until December, which is
Oh
the
wow, that's
opposite of
really good.
us.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So for us at the coast, the Carolea olives will stay green through October.
Hmm.
Maybe, and they're really turning purple towards the end of October. They're starting to really streak, and then they turn like a
Okay.
darker purple towards the end of November, usually. And that's because we're on the coast, we're at basically sea level, and we get a lot of sun. But then when you go in the
Okay.
mountains with the Reginella olive, they're green in December.
Right. So
And the
what
flavor
what are the
profiles, of course, are totally different.
that's my I apologize for interjecting, but that was my next question. So what is the difference, let's say, between the taste? What kind of flavor profile do you get down by the ocean versus up in the mountains there? And do you blend them?
So yeah, we do. So we actually, on our properties, which are close to the sea, we have Coratina, which is native to Puglia, Carolea, Pendolino, Licino. I'm missing something. I said Licino. Then that's all
You're
of
good.
them.
Okay. Okay.
And Biancolilla, which is another one that we grow, but we don't produce a lot of oil from that, even though the
Okay.
oil was really, really good from that
Okay.
olive. And then, anyway, so near the coast and with the Carolea olives, they're going to be really bright and herbaceous, notes of
Hmm.
fresh green apple. Depending on the year, it can finish with bitter almond or bitter pine nuts. And
Okay.
then pairs really well with fish, seafood, vegetables, and that's very classic for a Carolea. This year, and we do blend. We make when the tutti is pretty much all Carolea, and then we have
That's
the
one of your
Lina.
bottlings. One of your
That
bottlings. Okay.
Yeah, one of our oils. We do the Tootie, the Lena, and the Avis. The Tootie and the Lena are named after Giuseppe's parents. So Lena's his mom, Tootie's named after his dad, and then Avis means grandfather. So that's who our oils are named after. And the characteristics kind of like align to each person, which is really nice.
Yeah,
And
that's
semi by design. I think the oils just kind of like melded into what they were supposed to be. Anyway, so the Lena, I have the tasting profiles here. On the nose, unripe apple, wild vegetables. In the mouth, some bitter chicoria. And then on the finish, black pepper and fresh walnuts. And that pairs well with pork chops and cooked vegetables. And then lastly, we have the Avis, which has floral notes on the nose, which is really, really beautiful. I love, yeah. And so we're not just limiting to like fruity and grassy. Like there's a wide range of notes and flavor profiles that you can pick up on your nose, in the mouth, on the finish. And I think that's, we can talk about that in a minute because we're getting very limited with the tasting profiles that people keep talking about. Anyways, so the Avis also has notes of tomato leaf on the nose, and then in the mouth, some artichoke and bitter arugula, which I love. Artichoke and olive oil is just one of my favorite flavor profiles ever. And then it pairs well with gamey meat and red meat. And then we made an oil a couple years ago that was with the rogionella, and it had notes of black olive, banana, and also had a lot of floral notes on the nose, and it paired really well with ice cream and sweets. So that was the recommended pairing.
Wow.
So, and all of our oils go to a private panel here in Calabria. So these flavor profiles and the pairings are all certified by like a board of professional sommeliers.
Wow. Okay. Well, that you're speaking my language. So that being said, I know by this time, everyone that's like listening in, they're wondering, okay, it sounds delicious. Where do I find it? How can I get my hands on it? And I know you're a limited production, right? You're not producing 1 million bottles a year, but how can we get our hands on it? How can people in the United States find your olive oil? Is it online?
Go to our website. Yeah, go to our website. It's exauoliveoil.com, which I'll spell. So that's EXAU oliveoil.com.
Okay, that's easy. And then we'll include that in the links when we post for like a static post so people can see. And then you have all the products that are available on there?
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of volume, we're going to lead into the next question here. We're talking about, obviously, I know you were on Oprah, right? She mentioned, so we're talking about scalability because now we have a demand for a product. How do we juggle that? Or how do you juggle that? I find this is a really interesting question because I don't know what I would do.
You don't. And this is where I've been adopted as an Italian for just saying, like, I'm not doing that. Because we have this idea that we live in Amazon's world, right? Like 2-day shipping, everything's instant, get it to you tomorrow. And we don't do that. We've never done that. We never said we were going to do that. That's not who we are. It doesn't work in the olive oil industry. Olive trees take 7 years just to produce like a somewhat decent first harvest. They take 15 years to produce like a real abundant, good harvest.
Yeah.
Nothing in this industry is fast. Like the trees I'm planting are not for today. They're for me when I'm like 50.
Or your kids.
So that's, and our kids, like just so for some perspective.
For kids? Do you have children? No.
No, not yet. I just have like a couple hundred olive trees. I have like tree babies.
Well, that's good because you get to nurture them and see them grow, and then you get to see them bear the fruit. So it's a really great thing in 15 years. So some great fruit, very similar to good vine. Well, when you think about it, to wine and to grapes, you don't really start to produce. You produce a wine normally. Some people rush it at 5 years and produce a wine around the 5-year mark, but they don't start to produce great wines until around 12 to 15. And then once they get over 25, that's when you get like old vine, you get all those secondary, tertiary characteristics. So So next question, are you partnering with chefs? Are you mostly to residential? Where do you see a lot of your sales coming in? Is it where are they coming from, your clients? All across the board or?
I love this question, and I'm really proud of the answer. We are exclusively to consumers, so we don't even do any wholesale. We will start doing some wholesale later this year, but we ship direct to our consumers, so residences, families
Okay.
across the US. And it's been incredible because we can connect with people in their homes. Like, what an honor, right? For someone to
Yeah.
purchase your product and then put it on their kitchen counter, which, by the way, guys, you should be keeping your olive oil in a cool, dark place. So it should not be on the kitchen counter, but you get what I'm saying. You understand the sentiment. And we actually are, and have worked with a couple Michelin star restaurants in San Francisco. Like I said, I'm from
Okay.
Oakland, and we used to be based in Oakland. And so yeah, we had our olive oil in some of the best restaurants in the US, which is really exciting. So
Yeah, for sure. So what do you when did you move actually? You mentioned you were used to be in San, when did you make the move then?
so we moved actually from Oakland to Austin, Texas
Mhm.
in January 2020. So of course, perfect timing, right before the
Oh,
pandemic hit, to move to Austin, which is like the best city for social life and being outdoors. And just summertime in Texas in spring is really awesome, but pandemic hit. And so we didn't get to make a ton of friends there, unfortunately. And then, harvest starts to roll around in September. So we had to head back to Italy. And so
right.
now we're in Calabria, and I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, we can operate remotely. I love Austin. I want to go back there. We
Mhm.
have made a lot of friends virtually there, and we have a strong community there, but yeah, we have to wait till things kind of get back to normal before we can head back. And yeah.
Yeah. And Austin's an explosive city. It's just been growing ridiculously fast, and that's a great place for you to connect with consumers. I think there, like, I think it would be more appreciated in Austin than it might be in Dallas, just because of how open. It, Austin tends to be a little bit more open. That's than yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
We were in our first like no, we weren't even there for that long. The first 3 months, I'll say the first 3 months with us being in Austin, we had so many sit downs with companies, like with chefs, with people that own cookware companies.
mhm.
Opportunities open within the first 3 months of us being in Austin that then the 2 years we were in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
That's why we moved.
that's amazing. It's explosive. Really
Yeah.
expensive. What do you like most about what you're doing? Like, what's your favorite part? So, but maybe you could answer this in a twofold way to kind of let people know that you're really working three sides of a business when you because of the way your business model is structured. So maybe walk us through that, and then what do you like? Is there a certain area you like most if that's the case?
Yeah. So I mean, I love everything I do in the business, but I
Hmm.
think my favorite is being able to connect with consumers. I really miss in-person events where we can do those in-person tastings and talk to people and help educate them about what olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, is, and make sure that we reinforce what it isn't. And yeah, it's like that human connection and talking to people and sharing um, information about the product. And then, of course, that always segues into cooking and recipes. And we love making pasta and we love cooking. And so it just kind of snowballs from there. And then we have very long conversations about food.
Okay. So, do you, and then what do so you miss really the human element interaction, would you say the most? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any plan? I mean, how can we plan? But I don't want to go, let's not get into that. So we've been beating a dead horse on that, and it happens. It's going to be a year, at least. So what's, what's your favorite way to use your own olive oil? I mean, is it just to just take a spoonful of it in your mouth and Is it to make a cake? Is it to make pot? Like, I know you make several different types, but is there just one that you're like, this is why I do what I do? Or is there
Yeah.
anything that like odd G moment? Or
Yeah, it's pasta aglio e olio.
okay,
Oh my God.
no, yeah,
It is so good because okay, first off, if you're not good at making pasta, that's the recipe that you make to death to learn how to make pasta properly, right? Because it's the emulsification, you got to get it down. If you mess up the emulsification with with pasta aglio e olio, you're it's done. It's like ruined. So it's
right,
just the perfect practice dish. And then you can taste the olive oil. If you use crappy olive oil in that pasta, you're gonna taste it, right? It's gonna be so gross.
yeah. It's yeah, really, really bad. Over the years, I don't do it anymore. I used to do lots of judging competitions because I have my Master of Olive Oil certificate, but I don't do it anymore. Obviously, we're not throwing any of these events either. So but I'm looking forward. I want to get more involved and active in that again. I don't want to ruffle any feathers and talk about production and uh, the horrible mistruths that exist in the industry of olive oil. But people, please do your research. I wrote an article on it like a year or so ago. Read it. It talks all about how to read the back of an olive oil label, how many mistruths are on the label. So I don't want to get into it anymore, but please know what you're buying. Buy a quality product like this one right here. And then finally, I wanted to, it's an interesting story. We kind of touched upon it earlier. We were talking about living in a small town, and obviously you're in a multicultural relationship. Was that hard? Did that present any challenges at first or anything? Or do you see anything? Honestly,
Yeah, honestly, no. But you have to realize where we are. We're
right,
not in North Italy. We're in the
right.
South, a place that has been
Sono
left out.
piemontese. Io sono piemontese. Tranq-
Sorry.
tran- Tranquillissimo. Okay.
But
I'm
listen,
listening.
listen. Here's my experience because I live this. This is my life.
Okay.
The thing about Calabria is it has been left in the dust for decades to care for itself. It's like
Mhm.
that child that was left to the wolves and was
Right.
raised by wolves. And so the people here are also mixed with a lot of different races, right? It's North African, it's Middle
Right.
Eastern, it's Spanish. And so there's a lot of different things happening here.
Right.
And Calabria, it just feels like this place where they've had to really like protect themselves, and they've had to protect themselves from others and come together and be like, okay, guys, we've been abandoned. So when people come here, we're gonna like take care of them, right? Like we're not just gonna feed, like just be like, okay, you get out of here, bye. And
Right.
so I have a much different lived experience than my friends that live in places like Milan. It's
Okay.
completely different. I do
Yeah.
not have to deal with some of the things I have to deal with. The other part of this is that I am light skinned. If I was a dark skinned black
Mhm.
woman, I would be having a different experience because people would think like, well, she's absolutely from Africa. There's still people here that think that I'm Italian, part Italian.
Well,
And so
in the
these are the
South, you have
nuances.
a lot. I mean, in the South, like you were saying, I mean, you examine the history of Sicilia and Calabria and Puglia, all in the South. It's that's what makes actually, I think, the cuisine in the South the best in Italy, because it's so diverse, especially Sicilia, because uh, it because of how many different nations came in and conquered, took it over. It's really rich history. And unfortunately, yeah, I mean, we could sit here and talk about why it was left behind, especially post World War I and II. We could talk all about that. We could talk about
But
Mussolini.
these are the nuances in
Yeah,
racism and colorism that exists, and they're very real. And so people ask me all the time, like, how was your experience there? And I'm like, my experience has been fine and good. But
Good.
also we have to look at my lived experience that I would have had if I was in California. Like I couldn't do this if I lived in California. So it's this weird kind of flip. I had to go to a place where I have a different level of privilege because I'm American. So I have American privilege here. And I couldn't do this in California because if I was in California, I would be just viewed as like this Black woman who wants to get in olive oil. And then there's just so many gatekeepers there in the
Right.
industry that they didn't listen to me. I couldn't get into the high end grocery stores in my hometown. I'm born and raised in Oakland. I'm rare, rare as they come when I lived there. Now I've left, so of course. But, but when I lived there, we're very few. And I couldn't even get into the grocery store that all my friends shopped at, my parents shopped at. Like, are you kidding me? You're not going to let me in? And they were like, no, you have to go through our importer. I'm like, I'm from here. You're not even from here. Who are you?
But then how about now the flip side? Now it's almost the opposite, because now you're like, oh no, I'm Calabrese olive. I represent, I'm a Calabrese olive oil. And you know, the funny thing is now going back, I bet you would be more welcome now with your Calabria olive oil in the same place than you would be if you were like, let's say, a local California olive oil grower in a lot of ways. No?
I don't know. I think California is a weird one. It's very California centric. I love it. It's my home state. That's why I also get to talk crap about it. So nobody give me any flack for that. I'm from California. It's just an interesting place, and I don't think that there's space for me there in this industry. That is my full honest opinion, and I've lived it for the past 4 years.
Well, the good news is you're crushing it in Calabria. That's,
Yeah.
you know, just new hashtag, crushing it in Calabria. I don't know, maybe we'll throw it out there. I think it's so amazing what you're doing, and I'm so inspired actually by it. I first read an article about you about a year ago, and Jasmine, my publicist Jasmine Brand, actually was talking about it as well, and she's like, this girl's killing it. We need to talk with her a little bit more. We need to spread her story. And at the time, I was on a train riding from Milan to I think, Emilia Romagna. I was going to Emilia Romagna or something like that. I'm like, I read the, I was like, oh my God, this girl's crushing it. So I'm so happy that we had an opportunity to sit down with you today. But also, people, we need to do a little bit more support of helping family-owned businesses like this and high-quality products. So thank you so much for your time. Anything else you want to share about any exciting new news you have coming up?
Nothing I can share right now, unfortunately. Ooh. I'm excited for 2021, though. This is going to be, and 2022. It's weird when you start growing and you start planning, you have to plan things so far out ahead of time. And that's challenging for Giuseppe. It's not challenging for me. Like, I'm a very organized type A. I want everything to be in order. But for Giuseppe, he's like, we'll get to it when we get to it. Very like Southern Italian, you know?
Stop. Let's look at the sunflowers. Do you not see how beautiful the sun is in the sunset? Enjoy and live in the moment.
And so I'm just really excited to see how things pan out over the next year. And also Calabria right now in our town, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about La Castella. So it's actually a tourist town. And so, like I said, we're only like 1,400 people right now, but we swell to about 60,000 people here and in the surrounding area from June to August. It's vacation season. And right now they're like making all the adjustments to the places like the restaurants and the buildings in the town. And so it looks like we're going to have a somewhat normal summer, but I'm not sure.
How did it go last year? Because last year Italy opened up and miraculously for Ferragosto, everything was open, everything was going great. And then all of a sudden we closed in October after a little bit of, we got a little bit of money for tourism, but it was different this year because it was all Italian, mostly Italian tourists. No.
Well, we mostly get Italian tourists down here anyways. It's not a lot of Americans, a handful of German tourists, maybe some from the UK, but I'm not sure. And we also don't know what the regulations are. Are you going to have to be required to show proof of vaccination before you fly to Italy, no matter where you're coming in from? We don't, you know, we'll see what happens once it gets closer to summer. But anyways, they're making those repairs. I want more people to come to Calabria. It's one of those places that if you don't know where to go, you're not going to have fun here. Like, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be a good time. So, but I want people to come, and I think that people are starting to come here more, but they're going more through like travel planners, or they're finding tour guides or resources online, because there are more blogs popping up to tell people like where to go and what to do and what to see in Calabria. It is not like Florence or Tuscany, or you can show up and be like, this is great, I'm just going to walk around and do like the things. You're not going to have any things to do if you come here without like a game plan. But I hope people will come here and eat
But
and
that makes it
drink.
more authentic, right? That makes it more authentic though too, because a lot of times when you get to some of the other areas, you can be caught up in the tourist trap. So I don't know. I'm looking forward this summer. I'm gonna swing through Calabria and say hello to you and Beppe. Can I call him Beppe? Or no?
Jew. He's also like the fourth Giuseppe Morasani. Like, I can't. Family functions are just chaos, and to play pranks on them, they sit on the Giuseppes together. And I haven't been in a place with people with like that have the same name, where there's three of them next to each other, and then you call their name and they all look at the same time.
Well, well, I'm looking forward to actually learning about this in news. When you are ready to share it, let us know. We want to get involved, and we'd love to hear what then exciting news is coming up. We're thinking great thoughts about the summer and what that's going to hold for Calabria. And hopefully we'll see you sometime soon. But I really want to thank you for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, seriously, thank you so much. And until next time, alla prossima.
Ciao.
Ciao.